Welcome everyone to another episode of Coffee with Sales Engineers. I'm so excited to have a longtime friend, somebody that I've seen her journey through sales engineering, business development, leading sales organizations, and now go-to-market leader, Jessica Hood. Welcome to the podcast, Jessica.
Thank you, Sachin.
It's great to reconnect. It's been a while. I am drinking my coffee with a cup that says solutioning because I'm always in the solutioning, but you have something else on your cup. Tell us about that.
I have a blank cup full of coffee because I like to start my day as an open slate.
I love that.
All the possibilities in front of me. What am I going to solve today? Open-mindedness, especially in solution engineering, is a great way to start.
That's a great way to start this podcast, Jessica. As I mentioned in the intro, I've been so inspired by the journey you've had. You and I got to work on the SE team long ago. Tell us a little bit about your journey and if there's a story on how you fell into sales engineering, because as you and I know, you don't have an undergrad or master's in sales engineering, neither do I, but tell us a little bit about your journey.
There should be a program out there for it so more people know about it. I fell into it. I fell into it because I was a practitioner in the digital space using some technology and had great success with it. After 5 years with the organization I was with, I decided it was time to look for a new role. I felt like I had really done what I could do for this organization, had set up great groundwork. They were having great success, but I was looking to I like the challenge. So I was like, what is my next challenge going to be? Where can I do this? So I reached out to the vendor partner I was working with and said, hey, you all know everybody in the space who's looking. And they said, oh, you should talk to these company or these organizations, and we'd like to talk to you. And I was like, oh, what about? And so that's what introduced me to the world of sales engineering. One of the nice things about the way that it happened for me is that I love to tell the story about how 3 days on the job, I did my very first demo. And this is what I knew about demoing. I did this amazing thing and I got these results. Would you like me to show you how I did it? And people would say, of course, I want to see that. So I fell into values-based demoing almost by default. I knew the value I got from this particular product. And let me show you how you could also get that same value or even more from it, which was great. And then, of course, that's where you and I got to get to know each other and first work together.
Yeah.
So that's how I fell into it. And then from there, at the same company, having the opportunity to actually move into a pre-sales role that was more about the strategy. So it's one thing to show somebody how they could do it and they get very excited. But what if we could leave them with a workbook that was, here's the strategy and what you're going to do and how you're going to take that strategy and those tactics and use the technology to make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's what's really launched my career as far as what is the value that you're trying to get, whether I've been on the technology side or the consulting side. Because for a number of years, I flip-flopped. It was like, let me go back on the consulting so I can get my practitioner hat back on and really be authentic when I come back and show you how the technology is going to make a difference. And then I would say in the last 12 years, it's completely just all been on the technology pre-sale side. So I'll skip a lot of the middle, but the last 12 years, I know it looks like it was just 5 years that we met, but
that's amazing. My story of how my first demo, I love yours is so much more empowering. My first demo, I bombed because before becoming an SC, I was an integration consultant. Just like you, I was like, I'll just show you everything I know.
yeah.
And I went so deep into the technology. So I learned over time how to be more value-based. That's a great story. That's a great start.
Yeah, I actually have to also give credit to the AE that brought me in. I was scared. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I literally have been on the job for 3 days. I haven't finished my onboarding. And he was so confident in me. He had known me and I had hosted user group meetings and things like that,
Right.
but knew the story that I had to tell and believed in that and believed in me. So he knew that working with his SE wasn't just about having them come in and do a demo. It was about them being able to paint this vision and being able to show where you were going to be at the end. That is definitely the hallmark of a great AE. And of course, we went on to have a great AE SE relationship from there.
And that's a great segue into one of the areas, Jessica, I want to dig into with you, because looking at your LinkedIn and your experience, you've had sales engineering leadership roles, you've had account executives, you've seen firsthand what is it like to be on both sides of the swim lane, right? I talk about these two swim lanes between AE and SE because I've truly seen that when the AE and SE relationship works in synergy, it creates magic. It creates the prospects experiences, the results, the outcomes all work. But a lot of people struggle with that. A lot of A's and SC relationships kind of struggle with that. You've been on both sides. What's been your experience working with SCs as a go-to-market leader and being an SC or being an SC leader? What's critical about that relationship from your point of view?
There's definitely a couple of different angles. The relationship is the biggest part. And I love how you describe it as the swim lane. Each person, if we just focus on the AE and the SE for a moment, each have their own individual roles and responsibilities. And there is power in that. Very rarely, only sometimes when you're working at the most strategic accounts, do you get paired with one AE, one SE. We're always looking at how do we scale the team? What's the AE ratio and that sort of thing. But knowing those swim lanes and knowing what the core responsibilities of each side are, but then looking at where do you marry them together. If an AE is just looking at their SE as you're the person, you come in and you do the demo and then you walk away, then as an AE, you are not getting the full value out of your SE. Looking at an account and being able to lay out and say, this is what we're trying to achieve with this account. And this is whether you're working in a single product landscape or a multi-product landscape where you're doing a lot of seed and grow. Who within the company or within the organization that you're looking to sell into, do you need to get to? Which of you is actually the best person to get there? Look at the relationships you want to build with your customer or your client and divide and conquer that. And if you're not looking at your SE and being your partner in that, you're losing a lot, because the amount of credibility, often people get into SE because they do have the practitioner lens. Just the number of people that they solution with, that lends a lot of credibility. And I know there's always some debate about, is it a sales engineer or a solution engineer? I tend to lean more to the solution side, although we are the internal customer for the sales team. But that is one of those places. And I think even taking the time to sit down and strategically map that out ends up paying dividends. I had the opportunity for a while when I was at Salesforce to lead the strategic account team that put together the account plan, which was, again, what do we need to do? And it wasn't just the AE and the SE. There's customer success to think about, and there's specialist roles and all those things to bring in. Everybody has a part to play, and let's use everybody's strengths to get there. The worst is when you have, and I even had this once with an RVP that just kept saying to me, I just need an SE to come in and do a demo for this event as ground cover. And I was like, if you say ground cover to me,
that's right. There are other resources for ground cover. But I love that you mentioned partnership and having that relationship where you can trust each other to navigate. Everybody in sales believes that every prospect is different and should be different. You should not walk into every meeting with your script and the rep goes through the pitch and the SE goes through the script. Those opportunities don't go anywhere that drag, because the prospects know that you're just on autoplay. What's in it for me? And so when you have that SCAE relationship working in synergy, that's when both people are looking at every opportunity and identifying where, I like what you said, divide and conquer. Are there characters that are more technical in nature that your messaging might resonate better with them than me as the rep? All of that comes with open communication and that relationship that very often is underlooked. In the swim lane, a lot of the reps are go-getters and tend to be lone wolves and just want to go fast. But being able to slow down and look at who can actually get you go fast is really important. Now, as an AE, you've had SCs support you, or as a business development leader. We talked about what AEs can do. Are there things that you've observed that SCs can do better in that swim lane and in that relationship?
From that perspective, I think that don't be afraid. And really, I would say our role is to challenge AEs at times. We've all worked with them that have the happy ears. And it's not this is going to be my $1 million deal this year. We have to drop everything and work on it.
Right.
But it might be that you heard something different in the meeting, and make sure they know that. knowledge is power to everybody. And as long as we all put it on the table and have that conversation, it might not be what everybody wants to hear, but if we're all working realistically and we know that you heard them say they might push the project out a little bit, but you also know from your conversations with them and talking about why this project is so important, if they push it, you can go back and have a different conversation rather than just keep pushing ahead with the same message. You need it in this time frame, and this is why, because the longer you wait, the longer this problem you have is going to get worse and worse that we're coming in to help fix for you. I also think as an SE, presenting other options to the AE
Mhm.
rather than just the demo. I remember once hopping on a call with a customer who was not very happy at the moment. It really was a communication problem. What I quickly realized from having heard about several meetings is they're visual people. We were having a conversation about integration. And rather than putting up a really technical map of where everything was going to go, I just did a little whiteboard. It was nothing more than like a visual when you're talking
Yeah.
to them. So thinking about different ways that that particular prospect, like you've got so many tools in your toolbox, what is right for this situation, proposing that to your and giving them the why. If it's something they've never done before, that might be a little scary for them. I'm a huge fan of co-creation with a customer. The idea that, sure, you can tell me your problem and I can come back to you and tell you how to solve it. But if we work on solving it together and I bring you on that journey where you're co-creating the solution,
Mhm.
that is much more powerful and much more bought in. And when I get an AE that gets it and they see the power in it, we're so excited that sometimes I have to be like, I need you to calm down a little. I need them to solve it. I know you're excited to also solve it and do these exercises, but we've got to let the customer do that. So showing them new ways to do things. I think as an SE, if we want to change the relationship with the AE and the SE, it's also our responsibility to do
Yeah.
that too. So partner well with somebody means you're having those conversations. And then of course, as SE leaders and AE leaders, we also have to have that conversation and say, these are the things that are working well. And how do we get people to realize this at scale and get everybody to adopt this better way?
You should patent the co-creation in sales engineering if you haven't yet, Jessica. I love that concept because it takes personalization to a different level where you're not just personalizing your response and your solution, but the solution doesn't exist until you start talking to the prospect because you're co-creating it. What I also heard was it's not just the AE's responsibility, the relationship goes both ways. It's empowering the to feel that if you observe something, if you have a recommendation, if you have an idea on how the deal can progress better, be empowered to go talk to your AE about that. Make sure that they feel you're on equal footing and equally responsible for winning and losing together. Talking about empowerment, another thing that would be great to hear from you with the amount of investment and leadership you've provided to women SCs. Something I've always talked about. It's such an amazing profession. I have a 80-year-old and a 10-year-old girls. I will be a sales engineer t-shirts for them. They don't get it. They never wear it to school, but I want them to wear it so their kids ask, what is a sales engineer? I'm still teaching them how to answer that correctly. Tell me about your experience empowering women in sales engineering. What are some challenges that you feel women experience? Any message for getting more women in this great profession?
One of the first things that I experienced was being the only woman on a team of SEs a number of times. I very much believe in the idea of you can be whatever you can see. Being that example and bringing others along and being able to find women who are interested in solving business challenges and talking about it from that perspective too. I did a mentor program with Girl Scouts when I lived in California. They were partnering with Google at the time. The program was called Made with Code. The idea behind it is that so much of what we do around us is made with code. If you want to get into fashion, into music, so many ways our lives are touched by it that you don't really. The whole idea was to expose young women to the idea that there's so many other careers. It is not wearing a hoodie and sitting in a basement with headphones on, like pounding out code. There's
Right.
so many different ways to work in technology. And so that was really exciting. Anytime I've had the opportunity to speak to a group of interns coming through, and it is one of those people are like, I had no idea that job, neither did I. Now it's my responsibility to tell you about that. I also think there's a lot of folks, and I think you and I both experienced this most recently with the pre-sales collective, where people are starting to see this as a profession. And then how do they translate what amazing skills they already have into
Right.
this amazing career and path forward? So I've met a lot of teachers that make for amazing solution engineers and definitely get into that. How do I teach you how to do this? How do we get into that co-creation and value creation perspectives? Any opportunity I have there, I absolutely take it. I love to mentor women who are interested in the profession. I was part of the Women in Solution Engineering group at Salesforce for the same reason. I do think some of the larger companies, the Googles, the ServiceNows, the Salesforces, have really made great strides in really making sure that women know about these opportunities and what a great profession it can be. And have put a lot of women in leadership spots, which also helps with that.
If there are women listening to this podcast, is it okay for them to reach out to you and ask or find other resources?
I would love to talk to anybody. One of my big values is around connection. I always want to have a purpose in the work that I'm doing. I love connecting with people and connecting people. And then health has to be a value because we all need to be in a healthy place.
That's
Um,
right.
Folks, reach out to me on LinkedIn, send me a DM, a connection request. Would love to connect with folks.
Thank you so much, Jessica. This has been very insightful. So great to connect with you, talking about connections.
How does it feel to be interviewing somebody that you were the manager of as she very first started out as an SE?
I feel very proud to be able to reconnecting and talking and seeing again, like I said, seeing your journey and being inspired by it. It's been amazing. It's the reason I'm doing these podcasts. It's become less about me, more about the stories that come out of people that get on the podcast. It's all about shining a light on guest journeys. So no, it feels great. It feels great to reconnect.
Good. And you should be proud because I definitely appreciate the path that you started me on. Obviously, you've seen my career grow and blossom and the success that I've had, and now how I'm trying to pay that back to the community, just as you've advocated for me.
I appreciate that, Jessica. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of the day.
Thanks. You too.